I'm Meghan McGinty. I'm the Deputy Director of the Big Cities Health Coalition, a forum for the leaders of America's largest metropolitan health departments. Collectively, these health officials represent 55 million Americans, or 1 in 6 Americans. In this role, I'm responsible for 3 things. I'm responsible for building and managing our research portfolio. I'm responsible for convening health officials to help them work collectively to implement innovative policies in their cities. And lastly, I'm responsible for advocating on their behalf nationally with Congress and the administrative agencies to push for federal policy that will improve health in the nation's largest cities. So my job search was a little bit unusual in that I was recruited for this position. So at the end of my doctoral studies, my current boss reached out to me and asked if I was wrapping up my studies and if I would be looking for a job soon. And so I, at the time, wasn't actively looking for a position. My plan had actually been to finish my studies and then to travel around for a little while, but I was approached by my now boss, who I had worked with on a project during my doctoral studies, and she was looking to hire a deputy. And so in some ways that really accelerated my looking for a job because I now had an offer on the table and I had to decide, was this the right offer? Is this what I wanted to do after I finished my degree? So I reached out to a lot of people within my network. I had contacts back in New York City where I'm from and where I had worked previously, and that was one of the places I was interested in moving to. And I reached out to a lot of faculty here and folks working in Baltimore, as well as people working in DC. And I just did a lot of informational interviewing. I talked to people about what they do in their job, what they are potentially looking for in new employees. I searched job boards, and then I applied for open positions or talked to people about where they might have need for somebody. And ultimately, the jobs I applied for were back in New York City, but for different organizations than I had previously worked for. My training at the School of Public Health prepared me with the research skills that I apply daily in my job as Deputy Director. I run our research portfolio, and the skills I learned doing quantitative and qualitative research that I both learned in the classroom and got to put into practice during my doctoral studies are integral to building that research portfolio, which didn't exist before I got to the coalition, and running our research projects on a daily basis. But there's a lot of skills that I've also learned on the job. In particular, I learned a lot about policy and advocacy on the job. It wasn't really possible to get the same kind of intimate working knowledge of how Congress and the administrative agencies pass policy, but working with the coalition, advocating on their behalf about specific policies has provided me with firsthand view of how those policies are made and how we in the field of public health have the opportunity to influence public policy. I think the most important thing to do is to supplement your class experience with practical experience during your degree program. So if you can volunteer, intern, do a practicum in a professional setting, that will give you the opportunity, the exposure to that particular environment. So for example, during my doctoral studies, I volunteered for Delegate Morheim in the Maryland legislature, and I went down there twice a week during my studies and worked on policy that his office was advancing. I researched bills to understand and share with the office the public health implications of those. And it gave me the opportunity to really understand how policy was made at the state level. And it informed what I was interested in doing, but it also made me more competitive when I was applying for jobs after the degree because I had experience working in a legislative session. If a student is interested in working in a policy setting, I'd recommend that they try and obtain practical experience in that setting. So you could go work for your local city council, you could volunteer at the state legislature, you could volunteer for Congress, or you could even work in an office of regulatory affairs in one of the administrative agencies. And this would give you a window into what policy making is like in one of those particular settings. It would tell you whether you actually enjoyed those types of activities, but it would also, I think, make you more competitive if you're ultimately looking to find a job within one of those places.